March with all of his great work in sharing his wisdom through academia, through interaction with people, through training healers, through teaching people, and through his works all around the world. And most of all from your big, beautiful heart. Richard Jelusich, his impressive biography is in your book, but to the Subtle Energy Retreat this year he added a really beautiful element, and all I've heard about it has been fantastic rave reviews. He's brought his teachings and his students here and offering everyone here free healings. And that's been beautiful, and thank you so much. We really honor your contributions, and I'm grateful. Today his talk is, well, Melissa's already said all of it. She projected no, I'm just kidding. She said, I'll just leave that to Richard. It just kind of shows how once we begin to sink in, and how this whole community has synced in, how we complement each other and we build on each other through our sharing, and it just grows exponentially through each sharing. So please do enlighten us on surrender to your spiritual power through the feminine principle.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. It's just an honor, a true honor to be here. And next slide, please. We're going to start out with a nice short meditation. And Kimberly is going to be facilitating that. So if you please uncross your legs, uncross your brains.
And if you wish, close your eyes and allow the movement of the sounding of the chant to magnify and open aspects of you that are on fire to hear the very words that will move through Richard. Mater misericordiae, vita lucedo, et spes nostra a te clamamus, exules, fidii eve, a te suspiramus, gementes lentes, in ad lacrimarum vale. O clemens, Virgo Maria.
And breath in, and breath out, breath in, and breath out. Feeling centered, focused and grounded. When you feel the moment is right, open your eyes. Can we have the next slide, please? I feel like I need to buy one of those Word a Day calendars so I can keep up with Melissa. An amazing vocabulary you have. My work has been in the chakras ever since the early 90s. It has been my great love. And I wanted to know, how is it that we even come into this dimension? How do we even manifest to be here? So most of my work in this way is esoteric, intuitive. So my first book is about the psychology of the chakras, and the second one is about, I can relate, which is more about sociology as to how we relate with each other. Please. So I've been teaching healer's training for the whole human being for over 17 years now, and you've experienced the work of some of my students and graduates, and some are here in the room now. To date, I have over 490 graduates and students. They learn the philosophy, the science, experiential training, but it takes about 2.5 years. And I've found that integration of spiritual work is what takes time. And I know that in our modern era, we like to grasp spiritual understanding and awareness instantly, but what I found for myself over the years is it just takes time. It really, I can't teach it in less than 2.5 years. I found it's just not possible. In fact, I tell my students it should be about 4 years, and then they should spend about another 3 years with me after that. And so these are some of the graduates in the US and Canada. I spread my time. My home base is here in San Diego. I go to Calgary a lot, but I also have had students in Chicago and Las Vegas and San Jose and so forth. And it's just a treat to watch the light go on in the students. It's a real treat. Please. And so this is what it might look like. People doing hands-on healing. And the essence of the work is they have to make assessments, do the healing of course, but make assessments as to chakra disposition, strong, weak, deficient, excess, erratic, and then what that means according to the 4 archetypes of what it is to be a human being: mental, physical, spiritual, emotional. And I'm not very good at self-promotion, but I wanted to go through this so you could know a little bit more about who I am and what I do. On my radio program, we call it shameless self-promotion. And of course, that's the free energy work. So the healers will be here the rest of the day today and tomorrow. So if you would like to get on the table and experience some free work, or just talk to some of the people who already have. I'm teaching an introduction to spiritual healing here in San Diego, May 21st. So if you have any interest, please do let me know. On May 4th, I am very pleased to be working with my dear friend Jonathan Quinton, who I've known since 1995. As you know, he's doing a program tonight, I think at 7:30. Please do not miss it. Do not miss it. He calls himself an artist who understands the sacred geometries, but I think his artistry is a lot like Melissa, that just flows through in such a beautiful way. But on May 4th, he and I will be doing sacred geometries, guided imagery meditation, and a discussion in Encinitas. And September 22nd, we still have a few spots available. Journey of the Sacred Heart meditation retreat. This is the second one I've done. It worked out so well, we're just going to do it again. Please. And so, a lot of times when we're looking for an understanding of our spirituality, we want to know where I've been and where I'm going. But a lot of times the line of where we are right now is not very well populated. And like Bruce Lee, the great philosopher, said, he said, don't worry about becoming, just be in this moment. Don't worry about 2012 or when it's coming or when it's past. But your spiritual power is always available to you in this moment, not tomorrow, not the next day. And my talk is about surrendering to that power, not whether you have it, but whether you are actually surrendering to it. So a lot of times we believe that we have to hike up to the top of the hill to talk to somebody who's got it all figured out, right? But the first thing they're going to tell us is, you have all the pieces. the divine perfection, the purity you already have. There's no purity for you to create, but rather to access what you already possess. So we're living in the age of the sacred feminine, the golden era of inner transformation, where more heart-centered awareness is coming. And the feminine refers to heart, masculine refers to mind. And so we're learning now the tools of how to balance that sacred masculine and sacred feminine. We're learning much more of a due regard for Mother Earth. As Pekao Votan, who was an avatar to the Mayans, said, we're coming into an age where we're learning our natural synchronistic harmonization with the natural frequencies of our universe. We're learning how to live in harmony with all things. And what are the tools that we need for living in the golden age? So I kept it very simple. At the end of my presentation, I just have a few basic things. One of the things I want to mention right now that's not on the slides is authenticity. You don't want to be like someone else. One of the worst things you can do is compare yourself to someone. Oh, I don't have that vocabulary. I don't have that schooling. But you cannot be any more closer to perfection within yourself than you are right now. It's a matter of externalizing what you already have. So be authentic. Be yourself. We're in a crescendo of human development. We're now externalizing things like these. These are called computers. They have a subroutine called a phone. And these are what I call externalizations of where the present world consciousness is, because in this way, we're able to bring to ourselves the greatest knowledge that's been accumulated. You know, if this was 100 years ago and you wanted to study something from India, like the Upanishads or the Torah or the Talmud, you might have to travel. Now you can just bring it to yourself. But part of understanding the feminine principle is that this is a conscious, collaborative co-creation by you to externalize the means to access this level of information and thus to use it to evolve yourself. So that crescendo intellectually is going to go so far until we go to an entirely different level. The problem is we all want to know what that level looks like before we get there. And the bridge to that level is not necessarily the intellect, but rather awareness. So we're in an age of unity consciousness, quantum collapsing waveform dynamics, and the golden age of the sacred feminine. I bow to the master of syllables. But the quantum collapsing waveform is just a way of saying nothing exists until you observe it. It's not really there until you see it. And how you react to it is what defines the nature of your character. So if you know that within you is this spiritual power to discern intuitively what is the essence of the thing itself thus constituted, it gives you more empowerment, more awareness to decide what your reaction is, thus determining more of what your character is in a given lifetime. So unity consciousness is this 2012 era. Now, December 21st, 2012 came and went. Did you miss the end of the world? Yeah. You weren't there? So, you know, a lot of times when an epoch passes, we go, no big deal. Nothing really happened. But 2012 was not an event, it's a process. Process means there really is a galactic alignment. There really is a photon belt that we're flying through. There really is a magnetic bubble bigger than our solar system that's causing everything to change within us biologically and esoterically. And there really is a lot of science, over 500 studies that prove that human consciousness affects biological and electrical systems. Yes, but this is an era of time, as Dr. Modiyama said, if in this century we don't arise to that level of consciousness, there may be no need for any humans to be on this planet. That's not a good or a bad thing. It's just an opportunity. Dr. Modiyama said, Earth is a preferred destination for souls. He would look at you and he would say, you are all very lucky people, because there's a queue of beings who want to incarnate in this era. So your dharma from your own past lifetimes is so cool that you got to be here at this time to help usher in and shepherd the golden era of inner transformation. So a gathering like this is like a bija, a seed sound that incepts the way forward so that others can follow and go, wow, they had a subtle energy retreat. Dr. J didn't tell any sucky jokes. Wow, that's pretty cool. So 2012 was a particularly interesting year where we discovered a lot of very large and very small things. Please. Where this image shows the first ever direct observation of an individual atom with an electron orbital ring using a new quantum microscope. Imagine a direct view of an atom. Next one, please. Where a team targeted the Beta Pictoris star system and retrieved direct images of the planet Beta Pictoris some 63 million light years away. Now, what is a light year? Well, light travels about 186,000 miles per second. It takes 8 minutes for the sun's light to travel 93 million miles to get here. So when you see a sunset, it's set 8 minutes ago. So imagine how far a light year must be. And this is 63 million light years, and we're optically imaging a planet.
Amazing.
2012, the Higgs boson, the theoretical subatomic particle that imparts mass to all matter, was said to be discovered at the Large Hadron Collider in CERN, Switzerland. At the same time, the Voyager spacecraft had officially been leaving our solar system, the first man-made object in this era to leave our solar system, where the amount of charged particles it was receiving was greater coming from outside the solar system than from inside the solar system. So imagine these huge scales on the infinitesimally small and the infinitesimally big happening, and you are a part of this amazing journey. So we're living in a cycle of consciousness that people like yourselves understood in past lives. This 26,000 year cycle called the Yugas. And right now, we're in this place here called Dwaparta Yuga, or the Bronze Age, as called by the Greeks, or entering Aquarius. So different cultures had different names for the same thing, which is a phenomenon of an increasing level of awareness. So Dwaparta Yuga means coming into the electrical age. So imagine 400 years ago we discovered electricity, magnetism, and gravity, but no one's ever seen any of those forces. Now we know chakras exist, we know meridians exist, we know a person can send power to another regardless of distance and make instant empirical changes in that person. And yet it is because we're supposed to know this. And again, this is part of the feminine principle, is all of us coming to the realization that it is intended that we have this knowledge. It is not accidental. It is not just luck. It is not coincidental. It is meant to happen. And thus, with this knowledge, what you do with this defines you, right? So if you have something that liberates you from fear and from doubt and from illusion, would you want to move in that direction? Although, you know, some of us are dragged kicking and screaming into our bliss, right? No! Around 2010, May, NASA made an announcement that its gravity probe B had verified two aspects of Einstein's theory. That 100 years ago, Einstein theorized that there was a fourth dimensional energy vortex that surrounded our planet. Well, okay, 100 years ago, we didn't have the rockets or the satellites to verify that. And now, this satellite, making microgravimetric measurements of Earth's gravity field, verified Einstein's theory. So what's wrong with that? Most of us look at that and we think the Earth is generating the fourth dimensional energy vortex, and it's the other way around. The vortex is holding the Earth in space-time so that it can physically exist in space-time. I was at the Body, Soul, Spirit Expo. We had a booth up there in Calgary a couple of weeks ago, and there was a very interesting man there from the Amazon who was bringing forth this embroidered bags and whatnot from tribes there. And I bought one of the bags, and it had a beautiful embroidered ayahuasca plant, and behind it was this green stitching that kind of went like puzzle pieces. And he said to that tribe, that is the creation matrix that makes possible all physical phenomena. Which you buy a cute little bag. So the point is, in the same way that the vortex around Earth holds the Earth in space-time, your chakra system, Ida, Pingala, Sushumna, is the energy field that holds you in space-time, not the other way around. So the aura that we believe we generate, that we talk about a lot, is electromagnetic, but the true aura is one that is consisting of those three elements, and that is the matrix, if you will, that holds you in space and time. So in this Dwapara Yuga, we are supposed to know this. And part of the spiritual path is accepting your power, not whether you're powerful. It is that you're powerful. And so a lot of us say, fine, what does that take? It takes a huge amount of faith. Years ago, not that long ago when I was a kid, I used to love comic books, especially in the back where they'd have those ads where you could send away for stuff. And Edmund Scientific in those days had these little egg radios that had no batteries. And there's a law in physics called Lenz's law, L-E-N-Z. And Lenz's law states that if you have a coil of wire and you pass a magnet through it, it generates an electrical current, and vice versa. So I was fascinated. Here I am, little kid, I don't know, maybe 9 years old. And, I send away for this thing. Have mom write the check in. And this device has a screw on the top, and then this cylinder has a winding of wire, and then a little earpiece, one single earpiece, and no battery. And you're able to adjust the screw with the earpiece in your ear, and it goes, and Aurelio Hernandez just hit a pop fly to the center fielder. That will advance the runners. And I'm listening to this baseball game when I'm a little kid going, wow, the air is full of energy. This is so cool. There's no battery. And I'm like, hey, this is... But even then, in the 60s, we prove energy is everywhere abundant. Energy is everywhere abundant. All we have to do is what? Buy one of those. All you do is tune in to something that already exists. Nothing to create, only to access. Nothing to connect, only to increase the awareness of the connection. I like to tell my students, God broadcasts 24/7. It's up to us to have better, maybe some of you are not old enough, rabbit ears. Remember that? Or did you ever have a radio? You had to do this? And yeah. So we are in a co-creative, collaborative, collective consciousness. Oh my gosh. What does that mean? Co-creative, collective, collaborative consciousness. It means this is an us. Us means unified in spirit. It means you are as responsible for creating the subtle energy retreat as I am, as Christina, as you are. Thank you, Ingrid, making this all possible. But this is, again, this is part of the feminine principle, is giving yourself permission to recognize you are that powerful to create this event. Now, if you know you're that powerful, what else could you create? Are you enjoying the retreat? Is this fulfilling you in some way? Do you feel satisfied in some way? This is very, very important. We're in the age where there's not really so much leaders and followers as an us. Us means unified in spirit. You see me here today talking to you, but maybe next lifetime you're standing here and I'm sitting there. Who can say? And I tell my students the same thing. I'm sitting behind the desk, I'm lecturing, all these different levels about healers training, but maybe next lifetime they're sitting there and I'm learning. We're in an age where we have to become more accountable to ourselves, where we recognize that that feminine power is a yielding. When you yield not to surrender and give up, but you yield to surrender and give in to something you possess. How many of you have ever been in a position where you had to be in faith? Couldn't know, couldn't figure it out, it was non-rational, but you had to trust. What happened? That is the bridge between the physical and the non-physical, is faith. And the stronger the faith, the stronger the bridge. The stronger the bridge, the more you unify the non-physical and the physical as one. That's why when my healers are doing their work, yes, they do energy work, but then they have to explain. oh, this chakra is excess and it means this, and this is why it means this, and this is what you can do about it, and this is how you do it. Because they have to go up into that higher space through their intuition and bring it down into their mind, which awakens their chakras. And then the person on the table takes a psychic relationship to what the healer represents, and thus the person on the table is basically healing themselves because the healer has been awakened. But the healer's been awakened because they trusted precisely what they understood as was happening to the chakras. Why? Because the healer has to use their chakras to observe the chakras of the person on the table. And so that's that collaboration. So this is a very cool time. A very cool time to be incarnate. And I believe that we were meant to work together. I know sometimes in my low moments, I feel everything is on my shoulders. That's only up to me, only I can do. Then I have to meditate and remind myself that this is a collaboration, that I'm here with you and you're with me. And we have tools and techniques and methods to help work with each other. And I think that this is the, as the Tibetans would say, the discourse. They have the meditation, but then we have the discourse, so we learn mutually. When you look at that picture, what do you feel? Cared for, nurtured, safe, loved. Like when a spiritual teacher tells you how much you're loved by the divine presence, by God. And I know sometimes when we use that word, it doesn't sound very scientific, but there is a word that all of us have in our heart that reflects whatever that divinity is to us. And we're living in an age where we are allowing this preciousness that we feel in our heart to have that divine, direct, inner revelatory experience become extent. Extent means, boom, it's right there, it's right in front of you. Whether you accept it or not, that's where your work is. So maybe you are a scientist, or maybe you are a finance person, maybe you are a philosopher, maybe you are a teacher. One of my teachers calls this the new group of world servers. We all have different roles that we are here to fulfill. How you fulfill that role is up to you. As you allow that spiritual power to come forth in terms of harmlessness, compassion, dharma, that helps define you. But because it's a conscious collaborative relationship, other people take a psychic relationship to what you've chosen to represent, and it has the possibility of helping that person to evolve because they see your light. And they go, oh, I stood next to Ingrid, I feel so good. Why do you feel so good? Because an emanation of the quality of what she represents as an individuation of a soul, right? 2009, Vancouver Peace Summit, the Dalai Lama said, I know I show this slide from time to time, it's one of my favorites, because he said the world will be saved by the Western woman. And he meant women, heads of corporations, heads of countries, and so forth. Many, many women now stepping into leadership roles for the world. But he also meant the feminine principle, which is using the power of the will to yield. So my students are working on the tables, they get a lot of experiential work, and they'll hear me say, give yourself permission to be excellent at what you do. Give yourself permission to be excellent at what you do. Because who else can give you this permission? But I said give to yourself. I didn't say push. Don't push on the universe. Let the universe pull you forward. Yield, don't push. So we must yield to our spiritual power. One way is prayer, one way is meditation, one way is right action. But faith is trusting with your heart what your mind cannot yet know. And there's no shortcut to that. You cannot just fake it. Each person has their own ability to trust in faith what you cannot yet know. Not yet. Because if your reach doesn't extend beyond your grasp, how are you going to grow beyond this experiential set? So if I'm doing a flower reading, which by the way, I've been doing flower readings for 24 years now, so Teresa got all excited when she was on the radio program last week, and we're going to see about doing some work together in research. But if I'm doing a flower reading and I see a plant growing in the Andes and I describe it exactly, and yet I've never been there, how can that be? Unless it's beyond this 63 years in this mind, right? So that's through faith, right? So awareness is not conceptual thinking or imagination. It's a state of being that's brought about where you can have information that becomes knowledge. Knowledge can become wisdom with experience, but wisdom can become realization only with awareness. And the awareness is born from faith that bridges the physical and the non-physical. The Yogananda said, you cannot be any closer to God than you already are. So your work is not to be closer, your work is to reveal what you already have. And because you're all very much like flowers, you don't talk to each petal going, okay, you do this, and you go, okay, you go, okay, face the sun, okay, everybody. You just know what to do. You know what to do. Alan Watts, the philosopher, talked about when you're born, who taught you to take your first breath? Who taught you how to roll over? Who taught you how to walk? You already have what you require within you. And the way you can be controlled is by creating the other. Governments do it all the time. 60 years ago it was communism. Now it's terrorism. In about another 40 years it'll be alienism. It's a way to get you outside of yourself. And where is the true spiritual power? Purity and perfection. A lot of people have trouble with that word purity. You know, if I look at you and I say, I know within you is absolute purity. Some people go,
You don't know what I had for breakfast.
but it's true. I mean, if you really are from source, if you really live in a oneness, then doesn't every moment contain a drop of total consciousness? Then therefore yield. Please. There is a place in the Yucatan area called Palenque. And it's where this avatar named Pakal Votan is buried. And he was buried with 400 pieces of jade. In his right hand was a cube of jade, a six-sided figure. In his left hand was a sphere. And the idea is that in life, you're born with your cube. You have edges, you have surfaces, or as my friend Miguel Angel will say, you have surfaces. And in life, this is the masculine. So you must polish your cube so that you have a sphere. And how many sides does a sphere have? How many edges does a sphere have? And yet, where's the secret teaching? The sphere is within the cube. So you are born with the cube, and you polish. Illusion, ego, all that bullshit, right? Do the best you can. Reveal what you already have, one surface only. Already within you, nothing to create, only to access. So it doesn't matter how long it takes. It only matters that you do the work. It has nothing to do with how long it takes. Zero. It only matters that you behold it in the moment. The Mayans would say, you are becoming another yourself. This is the divine serpent of Yaxchilan, which is only accessible by a 45-minute boat ride down the Usumacinta River between Guatemala and Mexico. It's the birthplace of Mayan prophecies, and I've been there, and it's amazing. And so Kukulkan, the feathered serpent, sheds its skin, which means the ego. But only by shedding the ego can you truly grow. So the awakened being comes forth from the serpent. Well, in Mayan, serpent is Kan. It means wisdom. So you ever been to Cancun? That means nesting place of the serpents. It meant where the wise ones gathered. You ever heard of hurricane? Hurricane comes from hurrican. It means twisting serpent. It's a Mayan word. So you're living in a time where the serpent, or the wisdom, is now externalizing in you because it's supposed to. It's not accident. It's not luck. Although from your dharma of your past lifetimes led you to this place so that you can shed your ego and become another yourself. And that's precisely what's happening. So it's not a race. But again, as Yogananda said, there's nothing wrong with being eager and enthusiastic. God loves to have his skirt tugged on by us. So we are now living more and more and harmonic balance with all of the natural frequencies of the cosmos. But imagine the energy signature that sends out to 7 billion people on the planet. Remember the Maharishi effect, the square root of 1% means I've got 5 minutes. Next slide. Square root of 1% means if 2 people are meditating, it affects 400. If 7,000 people meditate, it affects 4.9 billion. So faith, the bridge to qualitative reality. Please, next slide. Your spiritual nature will find a way. You always will. It's within you to find a way. And take it from somebody who has to go through all the similar challenges that you do. I'm not saying anything that I don't have to do all the time myself. Next slide, please. Methods and techniques. Process in a safe, effective manner. Next slide. Yielding is in the moment. It's not tomorrow. It's not, gee, I wish I did. Forget about what you did. Just yield in the moment. But yield to your power. It's okay to be humble. Just don't be too humble. Be absolutely confident and absolutely humble in the same moment. Yield to your spiritual power. It's not whether you're powerful, it's that you're powerful. Your spiritual power is always here. You can never lose it. Be innocent. Be innocent. No caveat, no hidden objective, no ulterior motive. Just be innocent in what you do. But be authentic in that innocence. Yield first to the intuition, then act. I tell my students on day 1, trust what you feel, then you can apply what you know. Trust the intuition first, then use the mind. And lastly, I have some handouts here for you that Dr. Modiyama had given me 2 meditation techniques based on the chakra system and their breathing techniques, chakra exercises. So I will leave them here for you. One's called a circulation of light, which is a microcosmic orbital breathing technique where you're going up and down the body in this circular technique. And the other one is a 1x1 chakra breathing technique. I know the nature spirits. Okay, next slide. I wanted to leave a little bit of time for questions. Looks like I have about 3 minutes. Are there any questions?
Oh, no, it was, now it's
Oh,
time.
now it's time.
Now
Oh.
it's time for questions. I'm not going to pass these around.
Yeah. Yes.
Just passing.
You have a question or you want a handout?
Question?
Oh, she's
Oh, no, I
gonna
just
hand them all.
Okay, go ahead and have a seat. We'll pass it around. Anybody else have questions? Well, thank you, Richard.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.